anytime you collaborate with anyone, it's a different experience than, you know, each individual. It's like having a conversation.
Yeah.
You know, you talk to the same people all the time, and talk about the same shit. It's a little boring after a while. You know, when Jayski came back, there was a vibrance. You could feel it. It was exciting. It was like the early days again. You could feel this element. Whereas in '03, we had a little bit of that just because we had some time away from each other. And Tim came back. And then '06 was, I don't know how you felt. '06 was kind of just nostalgia. You know, you can only do nostalgia for so long unless you're just going out for a paycheck. And I don't think that's what Primus or any of us are really about. You know, you got to scratch that creative itch, otherwise, what the hell's the point?
From the beginning, one of the cool things was we would get gigs with different kinds of music. You know, in one weekend we'd play with like a hip hop group or rock group or some kind of. We're always playing with different kinds of music, and it was kind of going over. And we'd end up in these different situations, and it kind of turned out to be fun that we were able to go in these different places and actually make it work.
Right.
So that kind of over time translated to all the different. You know, we go to Europe and play festivals with different kinds of bands, and then in the States too. Kind of, I don't know, I guess we just feel like we're always open to going and playing with whoever, whenever. You know, it's a challenge, or maybe it's just an adventure.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we did the Ozfest and Family Values thing because there were some groups that were obviously influenced by Primus that were quoting us as influence, that had become extraordinarily popular at the time, the Korns and the Limp Bizkits and the Incubuses and the Deftones, all these different bands. And so our record company was like, hey, you know, look at these guys. You should be out playing with those guys. And we were like, okay, I guess. So we went and did the Ozfest, which was incredibly fun. We made a lot of friends on it. And it, you know, I had Sabbath records as a kid, so it was pretty damn cool to see Sabbath play and Slayer. But we were always kind of the odd, you know, the odd fish in the tank. And then we've always been like that, whether we're playing. We played the Horde Fest or Lollapalooza in '93 or you know, but like Lur said, we were always playing with different people. We did a show the other night in New Orleans, and we got to see Public Enemy, which was spectacular, unbelievable. And we toured with those guys back in the day, and I got to, you know, see Chuck and talk to Chuck. I hadn't seen him in many, many years. You know, and then on the next tour, we're out with Jane's Addiction, or we're out with Rush, or, you know, Pixies. And it was always this varied. So, you know, I think, you know, I feel a kinship with groups like Ween or Flaming Lips, which they're sort of similar. They don't really fit in into a certain cookie cutter, but they can kind of play just about anywhere. And those are the bands that we've always sort of related to. But you know, Primus is Primus.
What's up to you? Too many parties. I'm trying to
That's been a challenge over the years, but it is what it is. You know, Lur and I, for many years, we're huge fans of British comedy. You know, we have this kinship, obviously, with Trey and Matt Stone. That's why they picked us to do the song.
Right.
And it's, you know, part of what we did, especially back in the old days, and we still do, is what excites us musically, creatively, artwork on an album or a video, is what can make the other guy laugh. You know, if we can get each other going, we can go, that's so, you know, there's all these inside jokes that are all, there's this huge web of just me and Lur's warped sense of humor that some people get, some people just don't.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we make our living off of standing in front of people and playing our instruments because records just don't sell like they used to. They just don't, you know. A big selling record now is a tiny selling record from the 90s, you know. The
Right.
numbers are just so much lower, and it's definitely a drag, you know. And people talk about free music and, you know, everything should all be free, and I think that's a wonderful notion, and I'm more than happy to do that if I can have a little card that says I'm a musician, and if I show this to Starbucks, they're going to give me a free egg sandwich, and I can show it to the guy at the college when my kids need to go to school, and I can do it for free because I'm a musician giving my hard work away.
Dream on, man.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
I'd like my own garbage man.
You know, and that's some socialism shit going down right there. But if it comes around to that, I'm all about it. But so far, it's very lopsided the other direction. You know, we've sort of gone the way of the lumberjack. You know, it's not so many lumberjacks out there anymore.
Yeah.
And recording artists, it's much more difficult for recording artists. And I have a friend who's an accountant for many artists, musicians that were big in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s that were either retired or counting on retiring off their residuals. They all have to go back to work now. They all have to go on tour. And in a lot of cases, many times, just because you sold records doesn't mean you can sell tickets. And we've been fortunate that we can sell tickets. So it's tough, but you know what? It's still the best job I've ever had. It's a fucking great job.